Hey folks, it's Phoebe with Shrubsteppe Blooms. Today we're going to do a quick look at some of the bulbs that are flowering or coming up, and a quick look at some of our seedlings, and then a quick nursery update. So we're going to start here with the tulips. They're looking great. They were sitting under our deck for the majority of the winter and moved them out into the sunlight a week ago or so, and we had a spate of very warm days for this time of year, and they probably tripled in size during that time frame. We've since cooled back down and it rained, which is awesome. There are 3 mixes here that's tags deteriorated, so I couldn't tell you which is which until they bloom, but none of them are super fancy, like super double-y types, but I think they're looking really good, and if I could just recoup what I spent on them, this was a trial year to see if it's really worth doing, and I suspect it's not for my purposes, but we'll see how it goes. And either way, I'm gonna have beautiful tulips, even if it's just for our house, and that seems very exciting right now. I've been slowly but surely moving a lot of things out of the greenhouse and out of the office where I have a lot of other stuff growing right now, namely a lot of peppers, which I'll show you in a minute in a different clip. And they're starting to look stressed out, so there's a bunch of greens. They did not like that string of warm days we had. The onions, our water gets turned on in a few short days, so hopefully by a week from now a lot of this will start to get planted out. These willows are leafing out like crazy, and I found that this basketry type is actually rooting out the bottom. I have been checking them every single day with hope, and yeah. The this is Clarkia and Godisha. One end of it got really dried out and this is toast, but there were 4 rows of this mix and there's lots more. It's fine. These tiny nothing looking plants are starting to really look like Evening Primrose seedlings, so that's exciting because that's what they are. And again, more onions, hollyhocks, the sweet peas that froze and did weird rotty stuff, which was unfortunate. Bunch of yarrow, tray lettuce, and then down here we've got more stuff that's been moving out of the greenhouse tunnel. That rose is new and exciting. A gopher got my Queen of Sweden David Austin rose, and I happened to come across David Austin's potted up at a local farm store, which was surprising. And this one's been on my list, so I figured I'll just replace it with that, and I'm probably going to plant it in a wire cage because that seems like where we're at right now. We've got calendula, lupin, lavaterra, my replanted sweet peas that look great. A lot of the stuff you've seen before. These are the edible snap and snow peas. Those dianthus that I started from seed and saved look really great. I'm gonna get so many plants out of that one little half tray. Lots more Icelandic poppies. The baptisia is coming up, which is super exciting. So there's at least one representation from each species, which is awesome. We've got purple coneflower, so the really basic standard one that's everywhere. And then we've got white swan coming up really well. This is a lot better than last time I really stopped and looked at it. This is a white cultivar of coneflower. Back here we've got liatris, and it's not Liatris spicata, it's a different species. And some hellebores I got on clearance last year, never got planted, but they look, I'm really excited. I got all of 4 of them because, you know, hellebores are kind of expensive, but these 2 are blooming and they look really great, so someday I might be able to sell hellebores this time of year. In here, this will be a common refrain. The birds dug up these trays of larkspur because they probably looked nice and diggable. So there were more larkspur at one point, but I'm just gonna roll with what I've got, and we'll talk more about bird and animal proofing later when we get to the nursery. These strawflower and status and stuff have been sitting out here for a while, so they do look a little stressed out. I just fertilized them again, which will be the last time they get fertilized before they go in the ground. This alyssum just got moved out here, and so on and so forth. So, ooh, that's held up very dirty. Yeah, so these stressed out, not happy, but in another week or so, again, a lot of this will be going in the ground. I moved the lysianthus out here. We've got annual phlox germinating in there. They really like dark to germinate, so I finally just put a tray over them. I was worried it would be too hot, but they don't seem to care. So that's great. And then we've got a whole bunch of other stuff down here that just got moved out into the tunnel today. Look at the eucalyptus. Oh, it's so lovely. So happy with that. And then down there we've got anemone sprouting and the 2 varieties of ranunculus that have been doing well. So that's the greenhouse starts. Oh, that's not quite. And then that whole back row is snapdragons, more lisianthus, my hodgepodge lettuce tray. And then over here we've got just some random stuff that I don't honestly care one way or the other. If it makes it, it will. It's ageratum and nicotiana and some annual flax. And they're nice to have, but like I don't need them in my crop plan. But they're more for my enjoyment if they grow and get planted. Down here in the native plant nursery, some things overwintered really well. This is Penstemon attenuatus, taper leaf penstemon, and this is just under a year old at this point, and they're looking really good. So I hope some folks want to buy them this spring or fall. I'm curious with this type of shoot happening if they're going to bloom in the pot, which would be super great. So that's nice. We've got golden currant, which is Ribes aureum, leafed out. These plants are a couple years old. They are sitting in 2-gallon pots. Last year when I was cleaning up, I found some cells that looked dead or like empty. They looked like they had nothing in them, and I dumped them out only to find some sort of really healthy looking root. And I put them in these pots, and it turned out they're balsam roots. I think it's arrowleaf balsam roots. Down here we've got Pearly Everlasting in these little pots. This one spreads vegetatively, so I'm curious to see if I get it watered enough, if it will kind of bulk out and spread around in the pots there. This empty looking tray is showy milkweed, and it will come back. It's just not quite its time yet. Down here we have a whole lot of sagebrush, so Artemisia tridentata, more of that showy milkweed, which is Asclepias speciosa, right? Speciosus, something like that. And then back here, for my own purposes, I have kind of a hodgepodge tray of stuff. Some of it I bought, most of it I started from seed. This is wax currant, and I'll show you another one that's a little bit older. This is just a year old at this point, or almost a year old. We got another one in a bigger pot in blooming, which is a 2-year-old pot plant. So I'm very excited about that. But these, because I don't have a lot of them, I am just planning to plant out myself and then have the ability to collect seed off of it in the future. Down here we've got some common yarrow or Achillea millefolium, right? Some of it looks great, some of it doesn't look great. That's just probably how it goes. More sagebrush, looking really good. And then the thing that's looking really phenomenal is this basin wild rice. So I have 4 milk crates of that, which is about 100 plants, and they're really ready to go. So I hope people want to use these in their landscape, because they're such a beautiful, huge, like, statement plant. They have such beautiful coloring and such lovely seed heads. You can tell I'm a really big fan. Also, they're super easy to identify, which makes it even more of a great plant for me, because grasses are a thing that take a while to learn. Looks like Ava has been trying to dig out the embankment here. Super useful. And then we've got gallon pots with a lot of the same stuff again, because I didn't have a ton of different species last year. So more sagebrush, more Great Basin wild rye, some mock orange down here, Philadelphus lucii, and then we've got gray or rubber rabbit brush. I can't remember what the genus name is, but it's like something nauseosum. So there's that. And these always kind of look like sad dead sticks, and then they just burst into life. Here is our beautiful wax currant that is blooming. So that's nice. Super great. And then we've got a bunch more golden currant in bigger pots down here. And these probably won't be big enough to sell this spring, but they should be big enough to sell this fall. I had plans to maybe do plant sales in March, but it is March 28th today, and that is not happening. So April it is, and stuff is leafing out and looking really obviously alive, which is more in line with trying to sell plants. So more mock orange, and then we're gonna bop downhill to look at what seedlings are coming up. So you may notice these trays have just a few little tiny spikes of grass coming up. This is supposed to be 3 trays of Indian rice grass, and I say supposed to be because I don't know if you can tell, but all these trays have been scratched out by birds. I turned around one day and there was a junco just like having the time of its life, and I had them covered for a while, but then I had to uncover them so they would get rained on and, you know, live and learn. This back here is blue munch wheatgrass, which is pseudo something spicata, Pseudoregnaria spicata. Sure, let's say that. So those are doing okay. They didn't get too scratched up, but there is some damage in there. And I did overseed these trays really heavily, so I'm hoping even if I can get 1 or 2 every few cells, I'll take it. I really want to have this grass, and it seems like more is coming up, so I'm hoping that they missed quite a few seeds since I planted so many. Down here in these smaller trays, we've got Oregon Sunshine coming up, which is that woolly sunflower plant. So nice woolly plant with beautiful little yellow daisy looking flowers. We've got a couple trays of those. And then who else we got? We've got perennial flax coming up. This tray I really overseeded because it was seed that I saved, so I had a lot of it. This tray back here, not quite so heavily overseeded because it was seed that I bought, and same deal for this tray. So either way, there's plenty, and it's pretty great because this plant is super gorgeous. Over here we have 2 trays of lupin. This one is Lupinus rivularis, streambank or riverbank lupin, and my takeaway from that means that it maybe is more riparian and needs a little bit more water than maybe the more upland species of lupin, but it's got just those adorable little leaves coming out. This tray sprouted really vigorously and earlier than the tray next door. Look at all those. But this tray's doing pretty fine, pretty okay also. So this one is Lupinus polyphyllus, which is the big leaf lupin. It has a pretty broad range of where it grows and the amount of water it will take, which is pretty cool. And these germinated a little later, so they are just coming along, just getting those first true leaves on. You can see windboard seeds are so good at their job. Look at this prickly lettuce. Oh, I need tweezers or something to get these out. It's super fun future task. We've got 2 more I wanted to show that I've seen coming up out here. This is again yarrow, but this is just common yarrow, like the larger plants kind of uphill that we looked at a second ago. And these tiny seedlings will grow into nice vegetative spreading mats. We have it that grows out on an exposed slope, and that is where the seed came from. It doesn't get any extra water, so it's very drought tolerant. And then uphill a little bit, we have trays of sagebrush. So we've got plenty of that coming up. I really like how they germinate and then throw these leaves just right up in the air. They make it really easy to tell who they are. And it looks like we got pretty good germination. This is all seed collected here. So all kind of our own little seed bank propagation here. And that's pretty much what's going on in the nursery. Let's go take a look at some daffodils. Right here is just a pretty basic yellow landscaper bag that I bought 2 years ago and planted. They are very close to the roses, so when I was planting roses, I was just popping them in the ground around them. There's also peonies, but we'll see that too. Ooh, check it out. Already distracted by a peony. That is a Sarah Bernhardt, so that's great. But so we've got these nice, beautiful yellows coming in, and there's quite a few. So if we kind of pan down the row, this was a bag of 200 or 250, I don't quite recall, but there's a lot of them. Uphill from that is a different mix, which had more doubles and different varieties in it, and there are some yellows up there blooming, but there are going to be some other varieties coming in soon too. On the way down slope, I just had to stop and look at these peonies because these, I think, are coral sunset, and they're already coming up and looking vigorous. They are an earlier blooming one for us. These are newly planted last fall, so I don't expect to really pick anything off of them for a couple years. But this is very exciting to see. Also, just as an aside, I got all the roses pruned, and that's exciting. And they are ready. They're pushing out new growth. What we've got here is our 400 plus ice kings. I believe these are a sport of ice folly, which would also be blooming right now. But they've got, if I can get it to focus in a little bit here, they've got this like ruffly center, and they're really going. I thought they were gonna hold off for another week, but then we got that really warm weather and it kind of boosted them along. So I think I'm gonna try to sell some bouquets this weekend, just mixed of ice follies and some of those kind of more basic yellows, and they will be pretty cheap bouquets because it'll largely be the yellows, and then a handful of these. What is going on with you? Ooh, you got a little like bound up in the sheath there. Interesting. But this is super exciting. I am so stoked for seeing all the different varieties come in. I didn't plant a ton of different varieties last year. Please focus, come on, they're so beautiful. Why wouldn't you want to see that? There you go. So there's down there, I believe that's a double mix coming in right there. And then there's a butterfly mix further down. Further down this row, there's another 400 replete. Just up above me, down that way. I thought that was bridal crown, but I looked at my notes again, and that's actually yellow cheerfulness, which is coming up, and bridal crown is doing nothing right here. So they are coming up. They're just a bit later. So they are showing up later. With the wind we've been having, all these weeds keep getting blown into my flowers. Oh, I did not do a good job with that. But I'm gonna come through later tonight and pick some of these, see if I can get half a dozen bouquets. Since the chickens are kind of picking up production again. This is interesting. This is the second one I've seen do this, where it's just completely wacky. It's like half a flower. Anyway, the chickens have been picking up again, so we'll sell some eggs, see if we can sell some flowers this weekend. And that's really exciting because, flower season is pretty much here. It's probably hard to tell on here how like massive these leaves are in comparison to the ones we were just looking at. But if we kind of look down at this variety, this is replete. Look how big these leaves are. This is British Gamble, which has a really big flower, so I've heard. And based on those leaves, they're gonna be beefy. Oh, I'm so excited. We also just got more wood chips this weekend from a friend of my husband's, so I'm excited to have more wood chips to work on getting the roses mulched around and kind of help suppress the weeds there. The other thing I wanted to look at, we're gonna look at the forsythia because that's where I was coming down here. I'm still on the fence about like growing this because it is great for forcing in the early spring. I might see if I tuck a few of little sprigs of this into the bouquets I try to sell this weekend. But there is a great native plant for us to replace this with if it's just in people's landscaping and they're looking for something more locally adapted, and that's golden currant. It blooms pretty much at the same time, has bright yellow flowers, smells delicious when it blooms, and creates beautiful little berries for the birds. So that's my plug for replacing this plant that I have several of with golden currant. I'm just going to show this one lilac because they all kind of look like this right now. They're all very young, and they're all ones I got quite small last year, so they're bare roots or plugs. This one is Primrose, which is like a creamy white variety, I believe. I don't anticipate them blooming this year. Maybe some of the larger ones might try, but I'm really happy. During the heat of the summer last year, I was not at all sure that they were going to survive, so they are. There's this one, there's a couple more upslope, one down at the end, and then one right over there. Those are Caryopteris, and there's more Caryopteris staged around in there. This is like true hyssop, which I've been planting herbs around my different shrubs and stuff to try to help suppress the weeds, including other little flowers too. So there's, oh, look at this. This is wild asparagus. Heck yeah, maybe I need to remember to come check this later. Maybe in another day or two. Okay, that's exciting. The other thing I was going to show you was some pansies that I planted last year. So I grabbed a few that I saw on my trundle back in. Ooh, there's another one. That was a little bit chewed up, but there's a nice little variety of pansies. These are probably mostly from the Swiss mix that got planted as little tiny plants last year, survived the winter, and now are adding a little bit of cheerful brightness to the flower patch before everything else gets going. So that's very exciting. The next bit will be about what's going on inside. Just as I start deciding to film, the dog decides to finish her breakfast. But, you know, that's just how it goes. So the crunchy crunchy in the background is Ava getting her snacks. But what we're looking at right now is a whole bunch of peppers. And this forest right here is going to turn into all the ornamental peppers I'm growing this year. So in the front here we have Bolivian rainbow, and this is all from saved seed. And if I shove the tray in a little bit better, you can see that it's got those deep purple cotyledons, those first seed leaves, and then kind of tends to turn more green as the true leaves are developing. The next is just a Thai chili that has really beautiful long chilies that stand upright on the plant, so that's these. And then back here, these were also from saved seed. Back here, less densely planted because these are from purchased seed, are black olives. So these, again, a purple cotyledon and then fading to green more as they grow, but these plants do stay fairly purple, and they have this purple to dark red fruit that develops, which is really beautiful. So I'm hoping to get those to grow more. And then back here we've got the pumpkin on a stick, and there was one earlier that I saw where they're already developing the spines on the leaves. Ooh, there's a good one. The spines turn different colors later. They turn darker, but you can already see that. And on the back, on this main mid vein here especially, and then on those kind of lateral veins, there are spines all up and down. So obviously I need to divide these and pot them on just to give them some more growing space. So that's a project that I've got going this week. And then these are mostly sweet peppers and a few hot peppers. These are all hot peppers. These are for our personal consumption, and then I'm going to sell the extra plants or give them away, whatever ends up working out. These I over fertilized. They should not have, oh good. She has the most impeccable timing. Anyway, they shouldn't necessarily have these purple leaves, but this is fertilizer damage. So when I fertilized, these plants were bigger. They didn't take a hit, they just grew real fast. These ones were not so stoked about it. Back here, the jalapenos are looking really good, so hopefully I have a few extra of those. This is a darker variety called Czech Black, and it's supposed to be a little bit hotter than jalapeno, I think. And then over here we've got a whole tray of eggplants. You can see how I'm doing with fungus gnats this year. They're pretty nasty, but little sticky traps are working a charm. Yeah, lots of eggplants to divide and pot on. Also, up here, I got my tomatoes started kind of late because I actually waited this year, and then I waited probably a little bit too long. I usually start them way too early. So these were seeded this weekend, and the other thing I had to reseed was my large marigolds because there was a cold freeze while I was gone for work, and a bunch of them froze out in the tunnel. So that's what it is. A lot of stuff is outside hardening off. If I can not trip here, we've got some Gerbera daisies and stray lettuce in there apparently. This is Mahogany Splendor hibiscus. These are going to be great. I also need to pop these up. The interesting thing about these is they're, like, you know, known for their deep burgundy foliage, and when they start they're pure green. So that's something that always throws me for a loop when they germinate, because you're like, hey, I'm supposed to have purple plants, but they need that chlorophyll, right? So they start out green and then they start to develop these nice burgundy leaves. Back here, these little spikes coming up are the Alstroemeria that I suckered and caved and bought seed for. I definitely should not have started these in this tray. These lupin are an annual lupin called Sunrise. They're supposed to be like blue to yellowy like a sunrise. They grew so fast and they keep wilting, so this was a mistake. I need to keep watering the tray, which means all this stuff is too wet, and these things keep drooping and getting limp, and they actually need water right now. So that was a choice I made, and I won't make again. Over here we got my one sweet potato that's actually growing. The others haven't really made it yet, and it's really cute in here with all these sticky traps, but the reason they're so dense right now is because I moved all these other trays out, and now I just put all the sticky traps in the remaining trays. These are dahlias from seed. There's a like giant hybrid double from Johnny's, and then a cactus mix from, I think it was Botanical Interests. This is a whole tray back here of scabiosa and basket flower. not to be confused with blanket flowers. So these are those annual scabiosa. I think I have a salmon color, the Fata Morgana, the pink cushion flower mix from Johnny's, and then we have a white and a purple basket flower. And then these are those star flower scabiosa that you use the seed heads for. And then back in this corner, this is the things I grow for my husband to tray. At least partially, these are a lot of really hot peppers, so think habanero type varieties is what he likes, and he likes the different flavors. And then back in these other trays here, I have some little cherry bomb types that I grow for cooking and pickling in particular. Over here we've got some dahlias that are just starting to sprout. The idea here is that I'm going to come through and take cuttings this week sometime. The one that I really wanted, or the two that I really wanted rather, were this variety here, which is Pink Pearl, and the second one back here is Peaches and Cream. So I really wanted to make sure I had plenty of those this year. My other Pink Pearl isn't growing, and I really thought that that was an eye right there, but it hasn't done anything. It's been in here for a couple weeks. It did root, so not that that really means anything, but I hope that that turns out to be an eye. We've got some other varieties going on here. There's Jowie Morella, I think, back there, High Suntan. Some of these I just started because I only had 1 or 2 tubers that still looked good after storing them very ineffectually. But that's fine. I only need 1 or 2 for my purposes. I'm gonna have way more dahlias than I planned initially anyway. And then these down here are a few more that I'm just getting jump started, plus some ginger. There we go. So we've got more that I'm just kind of getting a jump start on because I am trying to get some of the kind of bridal colors going to see if I can get them to bloom by the end of June. Doesn't seem super likely, but I have to try. So we'll see how that goes. I think I ended up with close to over 100 or 200 extra pepper plants. So we're gonna sell them, give them away, trade them, whatever feels right in the moment. But I potted up a lot of them. I also have a full extra tray of eggplants, and I did plant extra tomatoes, which are these leggy little guys down here, so that I can hopefully pot those up in a few weeks and sell them as well. So lots of hopeful little plant sales in the future, but I'm pretty happy with how they're looking. Some of them didn't. Some of them had a little bit of a shock when they got transplanted, but overall, I'm pretty happy with how they look. And that's about it for today. Thanks for watching, and have a good rest of your day.